maybe I'll just share it from screen because may not be able to upload. I'm going to share the slides from play a video from which gives a bit of a glimpse of how climate is becoming a very important part of ESG. Yeah, later on, climate is just one, but because climate is issue that we have to face, and based on the latest World Economic um, risk report and of the risk that we are facing now. And of course, the COVID and the pandemic has been one of the top three, but we are getting better now in handling COVID-19. But climate is something that we are grappling with, and climate is become high on the agenda. But climate is just one part of ESG. But let's just have a look at the video on climate.
Right now, we're facing a man-made disaster of global scale, our greatest threat in thousands of years, climate change. If we don't take action, the collapse of our civilizations and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon. The world's people have spoken. Their message is clear. Time is running out.
The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere now is 50% higher than it was in 1900. And not only are we piling in more and more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but we are chopping down the forests of the earth at a great rate. And the forests themselves are the most efficient consumers of carbon dioxide that there are on Earth. We're going to destroy the ground because the soil of a rainforest isn't very good. We are actually tampering with the climate of the Earth and with the very atmosphere that we breathe. When we talk about the disappearance of the ozone layer, we don't know what will happen when the ozone layer goes. The world has become so fragile that we cannot subject the Earth to the tortures we can now inflict upon it. When we talk about the greenhouse effect, we're talking about something that affects the entire Earth. And these problems are life and death problems. They go to the root of the viability of the planet itself. If there's one thing that is biologically certain about the human species is that it is a human species, one species.
If we don't stop the destruction of our natural world, nothing else will matter. Simply put, if we don't protect nature, we can't protect ourselves.
The only way we can solve a problem is by a human solution. Never can we sit back and wait for miracles to save us. Miracles don't happen. Sweat happens. Efforts happens. Thought happens.
So this video, I hope will, perhaps bring us a bit of moment to think about our role, not only as an accountant, but also our role as not just an accountant, but our role as the vicegerents of Allah, and as a human being, and we are given this earth to take care of. And where are we in protecting what Allah has given to us? So I became a bit of emotional when I think about that. There's a lot of feelings that come into me when I look at where have we been in looking at environment, and not only that, of course, environment, social, and how we govern all these things. And one thing that comes to my mind, I think 10, 15 years ago, we spoke. I remember when I was a lecturer in UM, we spoke about, research that we want to do on environmental accounting. But at that time, we didn't get much buy-in from the corporates as well. So I remember a few of us, like Dr. Rosita, they wanted to do an environmental accounting, and we were trying to look at companies that have implemented, or are implementing. So that was in 2011, I think. But I spoke to a few of like ex-colleagues, but in corporates, but not many are really looking at the environmental part of the accounting. So remember those years we talk about transactional costs and all that, we try to look at. So they said that's part of costing, and it never come into the standard setting. Yeah. So looking at us in Malaysia, we're very much driven by what we call compliance. So if it's not on accounting standards, it's more of management accounting, less motivation in looking more detail into that kind of cost that impact the environment. So much has been forgotten about environmental accounting, and then we move in on technology in 2010 and above, 2012, 2020, all about technology. But and I think we were shaken with a lot of climate, with the pandemic, and then people realized that, oh, climate is already affecting us. And in 2021, Malaysia itself has been challenged with the big flood. So, but it's human nature. Sometimes when things are good, we forgot about our responsibility. When disaster came, then only we realized we've not done as much. And when a bit of a personal story, when my grandson was born, I was thinking ahead, like, how would it look like for him 20 years from now? And that gave me a very personal feeling and insights about the world that I'm going to live for my grandson and future grandchildren. So, and the feeling is different as a grandmother. As a mother is about your children, but as a grandmother, it's like you're an elderly person leaving behind something that is not really very good for your grandchildren. So that gave me a bit of refill, and a bit emotional on that, and I decided to quit my job and put more effort in looking at how accountants can play a better role in this space. So, and that's what I did in the past 1-2 months after I left MIA. Almost every day I do my research and my reading on climate, and I'm still trying to come up with a bit more better framework in terms of, or probably some tools in terms of helping the accountants to tackle climate. Or to contribute to climate issues. So I've prepared some slides, which I hope this can probably trigger the discussion. So I think the first, we look at the ecosystem itself, and for lecturers especially, we talk about a lot about business, society, and government, and business as a corporate citizen. So, I used to be a part-time lecturer teaching corporate governance at the DBA program at the Management Center for about consecutive 4 years. But this is, one diagram that I always share in class about business as a corporate citizen, and it has some intersections with society, and governments play the role in regulating. Yeah. So in this space, I wish there's someone from economy. I would like to boldly what I call challenge the Adam Smith. I think the Adam Smith wealth of nation, or the profit maximization, is no longer applicable, and we should just throw away. So but the problem is, I have not seen much of a new economic theory. The latest that we hold on to, or people spoke about, is about the donut economy. But there's not much theory, that economic discussions, or economic theory discussions, that we have on the picture. And we have people like from the BlackRock, Larry Fink, talk about stakeholders capitalism. But in the area of Islamic, Islamic scholarship, I don't think we like to hear the word capitalism. But there's no alternative to that. So now everyone is talking about stakeholder capitalism, which means that the capital, the interest is not just about shareholder or business, but it's about the stakeholder. So they now hold on to what they call a stakeholder capitalism. So it is, again, I would like to put on the table to all lecturers and researchers here, what would be, I think, why can't we bring back, the welfare economy, or those that tie very much to the Maqasid al-Sharia about the benefit for all, to be presented, or to bring it back to the center core in terms of looking at this. And this is looking at business, society, and government. This diagram is something that is already embedded in the Islamic economic system. And from the Quran, we have the ayah that talks about, you don't do something if it brings destruction. Yeah, we talk about halal and tayyiban, and a lot more of Islamic scholars need to speak about that. Yeah, so and this is what I've learned from MIE, from UIE, in 1992, 93, when I was an undergraduate, and it stick in my mind about the Islamic economic system, and the welfare economy, and the business, society, and government. And this is the ecosystem. And now everyone accept this already. Business is about society and the ecosystem, and government plays the role in steering, in leading the business and society. So that's the ecosystem. And then when they spoke about sustainability, so it's another interesting thing, which fits very well with our Maqasid al-Sharia, whereby when we bring up industrial activities, yes, those who bring the capital, those who bring the financial capital will get the profit, but it is only up to a limit that is adequate for them. Then the moderation comes into picture, and sustainable means it is not just about profit that they get, but it's also to take care of the planet and the people. So that's what sustainability means. It's about, having the business, but taking care as well as the people and planet. Then only this activity or business can continue to thrive and survive for the decades. So we know very well, and we have actually seen business which are not sustainable. Yeah, for example, if you're not taking care of the environment, you are wiped off by the flood, it's not sustainable. The business is destroyed. So I think it is enough evidence out there, and hopefully businesses and we are all learning our lesson about taking care of our environment, the people and whatnot. It's then that is what sustainability is all about. It's about getting enough outcome, enough profit, and also making sure the planet is taken care of, and people are living in a livable condition. Okay, so that's what sustainability is all about. And looking at this, I think this is what Islam is actually proposing, or is actually part of our principles in our Maqasid Sharia. So this is time where we will, I think, IIUM has a lot of niche area to look at and to advocate, to bring back and tell people about these concepts. And we look at ESG, ESG focus, sustainability is broad, it touch about profit, it touch about productions and all that. ESG is about looking at environmental and social, and governing, how we govern environmental and social. So I think within the sustainability, ESG is a big part of the sustainability, but sustainability is a bit bigger than ESG. So ESG looking at environment. Okay, so can you hear me well? Because I get a message that my internet is a bit unstable. I hope you can hear me well. So when we look at environment, climate is one of those, about green gas house emission. This is one that is high on the agenda, because a lot of research and the IPCC, which is the international program on the on climate governance, has actually came out with the report that we should limit the greenhouse gas emission to 1.5 degrees Celsius, because if we go up, if we are getting warmer, and there will be a lot of impact, because of the warmer environment. And the other thing is on energy, water and land, on waste production, on energy sources, and other risks like oil spills, mine reclamation, deforestation, water and pollution. So when we look at environment, climate is just one of that. Okay, and you can see later on, I will share about standards on climate disclosure, but climate is just one of environmental issue. Okay, in certain countries like Malaysia, we have issues on water, we have issues on plastic, okay, on recycling, we have issues on oil spills, maybe not here, but in some other countries on oil spills. We have issues on deforestation. Okay, so climate is just one, and the standards that I'm going to share later on, it talks a lot about climate, because that is the most pressing that they're looking at. And then apart from that, we also have social issues, and social issues that the corporates need to take care of. And not only the corporate, I think we all need to take care of social issues as well. Human rights, modern slavery. Modern slavery includes, what modern slavery includes those issues where the workers, the employees are not well remunerated, they don't get well treatment, they don't get good facility. For example, they didn't get good living conditions, for example. So modern slavery, and they're not paid commensurate. So the word is commensurate. And then child labor, working conditions, employee relations, diversity, gender, racial discrimination policy, product quality and safety, workplace safety, and responsible marketing. So you can see that there's a list of issues. But again, for each organization and for the accountants working in that company, there has to be a lot of what we call risk assessment and materiality. So in the layman's word, it's about prioritization. Which one you need to handle first? Yeah, because we have limited resources. So companies, organizations need to identify which is the most pressing matter, which will bring the most impact, and we need to start looking at our materiality and high risk area. And the third one is about governance, whereby again governance, we need the those charged in governance or the leaders, in a simple word, we need them to take care of environmental and social, but first they need to be able to lead. So their structure, their quality, the their skill sets need to be able to understand environmental and social issues, so that in their decision making they need to make good decisions and find solutions on resolving environmental and social. So but having said that, sometimes even at the governance level, we are uh, things are not yet in place. We have bribery, corruption practices, yeah, where what happened when there's bribery and corruption, the resources that we have which are not adequate is even less adequate, because the resources are taken away from people, yeah, who are not supposed to take that. That's not due to them. That's not their rights. But so bribery and corruption reduce the available resources for us to handle environmental and social. So that is why we are concerned about governance, because all those who are there to lead and solve the problem need to have integrity, honesty, accountability, and need to have the skill sets, yeah, the due competence to take off these issues. So even with these slides, I can tell you it's heavy. There's alphabet soup of many issues, and which you can pick up some that are already here in our environment, in our society, in Malaysia itself. And sometimes it becomes a vicious cycle. While we're trying environment, then we're grappling with corruption, and the resources are not there for the environment and social. So I think we need to play our role, even small, in order to advocate, to advise people to do the right thing. So, and I did this mapping. This is my mapping which I did in terms of where does accountants playing their roles, because accountants, they serve many different roles. For example, at governance level, we do have many of the members of the profession or accountants who uh, have the experience, who actually become the board of directors. So on the left hand side in governance, the accountants will become leaders. They need to ensure that ESG matters are incorporated into strategies, risk management, and the operational plan. And then at the organization level, we look at our talent. And I think this is where education institution is also very, very important in playing their role to ensure that our talent and future talent have the knowledge and skill to handle these issues. Yeah. And we do have some gaps as well in terms of professional trainings and certification in the area of ESG. Yeah. How many accountants understand climate change? How many accountants understand deforestation? How many accountants understand the effect of water? Okay. And how do we know, you know, in terms of transforming, for example, the amount of kilowatt of electricity that we consume and transform that into carbon calculation. So that's a kind of interesting conversation. So if we don't have that information, then we need to obtain that information. So yesterday I attended this class, and they actually teach in terms of, okay, how do we turn that electricity consumption into the carbon computation. Okay, so they do have the spreadsheet that they say you just put in the spreadsheet, and but a lot of question in terms of what is the standard conversion that you use, and what is the pricing. So that conversation is very much alive. And then in terms of process, setting up the process in ensuring proper implementation of strategies and risk management implementation. And this is where costing process is very important. And those who are teaching management accounting, and that goes back to all our conversation those years about transactional costs. Yeah. So in the production of in any goods, what are kind of costs that we incur at the moment that relates to, say, water, that relates to climate. And I'm sure, at least electricity, water bill, those relates to environment. And therefore, are we also incurring, or are we also looking at renewable energy? For example, if you consume huge electricity, it's timely now to think about solar-based energy. So is the accountant thinking about that? Is the accountant understanding about the benefit of the renewable energy? So the accountants need to have that knowledge. Then the system itself, some accountants, some CFOs, the technology is under them. Yeah, the IT reports under them as well. So in terms of environmental information system, ESG risk management system, the data that need to be collected in handling ESG disclosure, we need a lot of data. And have we put in place a data system in collecting data related to environmental and social? And okay, I hope you can hear me, because I do get, off and on, the message that my internet is not stable, but it's just a few seconds. So, but now we look at the fifth column, which is core to us, counting and reporting. But even though this is our core area, but we still have those footprint in other areas that I've mentioned. But in terms of our core area, we talk about sustainable finance, for example. Sustainable finance means getting that financing to assist us in converting into sustainable production. For example, the solar. If we are changing our energy source to solar, we need a huge, probably, expenses, investment in terms of changing our plant and machineries or our factories into solar. So where can we get a good financing in terms of probably low profit financing for us to do this? So at the moment, some banks have started to focus on this sustainable finance, where they would like to focus their finance on product or activities that has less impact on environment. So one of the banks is CIMB. CIMB is one of the top banks in Malaysia, that they have started much earlier in their journey to give financing for sustainable or environmental friendly activities. Then Maybank has that, and also I think Bank Islam is looking into this, and other banks slowly gaining traction. Yeah, slowly gaining traction. So and this is based on the data that I have on the top Asian banks that are into this journey. Then taxation. Government has announced about a possibility in 1 or 2 years to introduce carbon tax. The third bullet is about environment management accounting. And this is where looking at, identifying costs that relates to environment and social. In valuation space, there's already standards on valuation related to climate change friendly initiative or ESG activities. As far as Bursa Malaysia is concerned, I think Bursa Malaysia looked into ESG for quite some time. They started with the CSR, the CSR reporting, and then they moved from CSR reporting into sustainability reporting requirement, which has been there, and I think it has been for a few years, and all public listed actually included sustainability reporting into their financial statements. And then, but Securities Commission in 2017 actually advocate for integrated reporting. So integrated reporting tend to have more information as compared to Bursa Sustainability Report. So if you look at Bursa Sustainability Report, you can see that sometimes I have reviewed a few companies. It is very, very short. There's not much information. But integrated reporting blends things to and integrate, this type of information into the broader strategy, business models, and risk management. And it's actually wider and more integrated, and you can get a better information. And then there are few other standards like GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative, and integrated reporting has merged with Sustainability Accounting Standard Board, which is US based, and they form the Value Reporting Foundation. And then there's another so-called reporting framework from the TCFD, which is a framework by the Task Force for Climate Financial Disclosure. So TCFD is very focused on climate. Climate. So as I mentioned, ESG is bigger than climate. Climate is just one of that, but climate is actually very, very important. And then we have the another one, science-based target. Okay. And finally, IFRS Foundation tried to converge, tried to merge everything from IR to GRI to TCFD and science-based target, and came out with International Sustainability Standard Board. So this relates to reporting. So, and interestingly, yesterday at 5 o'clock, the ISSB, another board under IFRS Foundation. So now IFRS Foundation has two boards. IASB is the National Accounting Standard Board, and ISSB is International Sustainability Standard Board. And last night they released two exposure draft. They call it Sustainability 1 S1 and Sustainability 2 S2. Okay, so I actually worked until 12 o'clock last night to read and come out and try to decipher what are on the standards. And interestingly, I'll share a bit of those later on. So, but there's a lot to learn. That's my point. A lot new things that's coming on board and new things on our plate that we need to learn. And with all this new kind of reporting, and actually some companies overseas, I would say, have started to do this, to incorporate like climate disclosure. In Malaysia, a few, I think about 9 companies, public listed, only about 9 have started to incorporate, like GRI, TCFD and all that. Only little, only a few companies in Malaysia, but globally many have incorporated the climate information. But with all the data that they presented, then investors started to ask, who gave the assurance? How do we know you have provided a right data? And therefore, the International Federation of Accounting came out together with International Auditing and Assurance Standard Board, with the standards, assurance standard on reporting or external assurance on emerging matters. So this under the IAASB EER. Then internal audit sometimes has been called to report on the integrated reporting and sustainability reporting. And some countries like South Africa, they have a combined assurance between internal and external assurance. So those development in assurance as well. So this, I've mapped this. So, and you can see where members of the professions playing their role. So in terms of ESG disclosure handbook, what we have, in Malaysia, we don't have a specific guideline on ESG disclosure. But what we have is sustainability, but it is, I think, as I said, ESG is a big part of sustainability, is actually sometimes used interchangeably, but sustainability for public listed goes probably a bit more than ESG, because there's also sustainability in terms of their operation, their productions, their revenue, and all that. And the World Business Council on Sustainable Development, WBCSD, came out with this. I think this is more of a guide in terms of ESG disclosure handbook, that where they propose that you put ESG related risks, ESG related opportunities, how management are taking care of that, the management plans and strategy, the governance, the targets, and the performance. So all these points, they are not very different from other standards like TCFD. In TCFD as well, we have governance, strategy, risk management, and metrics and targets. So they're more or less similar. In governing ESG, as advocated also by MCCG, Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance, we need to identify board member and senior management in charge. There must be someone who's been assigned on the responsibility to look after these ESG matters. And then it has to be embedded and incorporated in your risk and materiality assessment. So it can be done when we look at risk and materialities assessment. We have our existing, and you can carry out another process just to focus on ESG matters, and then you need to integrate it, to make it one integrated risk and materiality assessment. And in terms of strategy setting, targets, and performance, while you have identified your probably focus area of environmental and social, then it has to be embedded into your overall strategies. That means if your companies are oil and gas, so I think it will take a big part on your strategies, targets, and performance. But if you are companies that sell retail or consumer based goods, like for example, you are selling probably just clothes, so it may not be a big part of your strategy, target, and performance. So that's why materiality is very important. Some companies may have a big relationship with environmental, but some companies, they don't have much of environmental impact in their operation, but they do have like impact where they use electricity or energy or water, but not much. So it then has to be part of the implementation plan. And finally, on communication and reporting, that's where all the standards come into picture. So in terms of financial statements itself, I think this is always something that accounting fraternity like to ask, how does it impact accounting? But you see, accounting is actually, if you look at IASB or IFRS conceptual framework, you look again at the wordings, the conceptual framework. Accounting is about presentation and disclosing the economic activities. It is not silo. So after all the chain of economic activities and the impact that we've seen from process and systems and all that, and the impact of climate, impact of environment and social to your operation, so you can imagine how it impacts your financial statements. It is not in silos, it's brought by your operational impact. So therefore, if we understand it from the bigger picture, so we can then identify how it impacts our financial statements. Yeah, for example, flood, it comes from environment, it wipe out all your stocks. So how does it impact your financial statements? Yeah, you would be able to answer that. So, but however, IFRS have they actually produce the practice statement on materiality and judgment, and they also have some materials in terms of advising, some articles in terms of advising companies try to understand how it impacts the financial statement. First, it's you need to assess materiality and making judgment. Yeah, assess materiality and making judgment. Some of those activities have actually been has actually happened, like flood. So already it's real, it is already impacting your financial statements. You need to take care of the impairment. But and some, it has not happened, but it may come as your potential uh, provisions, for example. So therefore, you need to be able to assess. Yeah, assessment is very important. And then operationally as well, when the operational department look at potential impact, then they have the mitigation plan. And the mitigation plan actually may include purchase of new property, plant, and purchase of new equipments and all that to weather the impact of environment. So therefore, that comes as a disclosure. Okay, so first, assessing materiality, identify and make judgment how it will impact the operation and how it impact financial statement. So it's not in silos on financial statement. It has to come from your strategy, risk management, assessment. So that is very important. Financial statements is not coming, it's not handled in silo. You need to interact. That's why integrated reporting actually advocate for the idea of integrated reporting is to show the flow, to show the integration from your strategy, risk management that flows to your financial statements. And next, after understanding, identifying, and looking at the materiality and making judgment on the impact, that's where you look at the financial reporting consideration. Does it, actually impacting asset impairment, goodwill? Okay, any changes in provision for onerous contracts because of increase in terms of demand, and then any changes in the useful life of asset, changes in provision and contingent liability, changes in fair valuation, changes in expected credit losses for loans or other financial assets, or effects or impairment calculation. So that those would be, I think, main areas that we are handling. And this is not new. Okay, this is not new, because any what we call any calamity, any risk to the business, whether it's technological risk and whatnot, we will still have to do this. But so this is just that this risk come from environment. These risks come from social, for example. So I give you an example. Technology. When we handle technological risk, when the product is outdated. Yeah, when I used to work in public listed at that time, we had at that time, the facility or machines that produce floppy disks, but floppy disks were no longer used. So the machines have to be sold at a scrap value because no one wants to buy that machine anymore. So we look at asset impairment. So now when it comes to climate, it's similar thing. But the challenge here is that for the accountants to understand climate. In terms of technology, probably a bit easier because the moment it is obsolete, no one wants to purchase. But in terms of climate, is a dynamic biological nature. biodiversity. So it's a dynamic thing that sometimes you may not be able to make that good judgment. You need more knowledge for that good judgment. So that's why data is very important. That's the challenge for accountant, because we are not science based. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't come into our logical thinking. So it's that challenge, and that's why learning, understanding is very important. And then the third one is to consider, to identify, how do we disclose this? Okay, how do we disclose our climate related and other emerging risks in the financial statement? And as at present in the IASB, I think practice statements, we have management commentary, which is narrative reporting explaining the company's purpose, strategy, business models, and outcomes. Uh, the management commentary consultation has just finished. And as part of the member of Integrated Reporting Council framework, I gave comment on this management commentary, because we we think that it has to be aligned with the integrated reporting framework, because integrated reporting framework is about also about financial and non-financial information that integrate everything together to give a holistic picture on the value of the organization. So the other point that I would like to share here, that probably something that easier for you to take home, is that a lot of these disclosure are non-financial in nature. When it relates or it translates into financial, it will go into the financial statement when it has happened. Yeah. For example, flood. When it has happened, you will have to do asset impairment. But sometimes before the risk, risk is always about things that would probably happen, but may not have happened. Therefore, how do you disclose that? It comes under management commentary, and also some may go into your accounting policies. Yeah, your disclosures. So that is something that you need to identify and understand correctly in terms of how these impact or potential impact of environment comes into the financial statement through disclosures. All right. To this point, okay, maybe I cover another slide. This is an example how BHP is a petroleum oil and gas company. Put that into their annual report 2021. Announcement and impairments recognized in financial year 2021 limit the exposure of the carrying value of the group's asset to long-term commodity prices for energy, coal, oil, and natural gas, as the group has announced a merger proposal to combine the group petroleum business with Woodside. The group has announced the signing of sale and purchase agreement to divest 33.3%. Following impairments recognized in financial year 2021, the carrying value of the group's assets, NSWEC assets, is no longer material. So this is also the disclosure that they put, which they said that management would alter its operating and investments plan in such a pricing environment for this asset to mitigate cash flow and valuation impacts. Yeah, so that gives the reader the understanding something may be changing in the financial statement. It is currently impracticable to fully assess the potential impacts on the significant judgments and key estimates used in the preparation of the group financial statement. However, given the factors outlined above, NSWEC closure provisions are considered the liabilities most susceptible to the long-term impact of the group 1.5 degrees Celsius Paris-aligned scenario, as reserves and resources may become incapable of extraction in an economically viable fashion prior to the current best estimate of remaining useful life. In such a scenario, closure activity may be performed earlier than the group's current best estimate, impacting the closure provision. So what is it? It's all about the story behind it. Oil and gas are converging into renewable energy. Many oil and gas are pressured to close down coal base or fossil fuel base. Yeah, fossil fuel base. Fossil fuel base means oil extraction from the earth. Because it's based on fuel based on fossil accumulation. So some of the the oil rigs that has another 20-30 years useful life may close down a bit earlier because they used to renewable energy like hydrogen. So that's what they are saying in this disclosure. So that's the story behind that. Yeah. So that's an example. Right. So a closer look. These are those areas, that we are almost very much concerned of as well, because that relates to probably some accounting curriculum, that relates to emerging information that your students need to know of, and they need to start learning and understanding. Yep. So if I stop a bit here, are there any questions so far? Okay, so
Any questions?
any questions so far? Okay, maybe any one or two questions if we can address those. Okay.
Any questions from the floor?
Yeah, or you can put it on the chat. I can also read the chat if there's any. Okay, so let me just, as I go along, feel free to put on the chat. Okay, the corporate reporting landscape is getting more demanding. Investors now started, especially big investors, started to focus on whether companies are handling all these ESG factors. They are now focusing on purpose-driven organization with long-term objectives. So actually, the discussion about short-term and long-term has been there. And many companies also have responded. So like MIA, when I was there, we responded to Bursa consultation about quarterly reporting, because the concern is that quarterly reporting will bring companies into short-term mindset. They try to show that quarterly they getting the profit, but it may not be there in the long term, may not be good or valuable in the long term. So, but as time moves, in year 2021, 22, more investors are looking for long-term, purpose-driven organization for them to invest on. And more are demanding stewardship and corporate governance. And United Nations came up with UN Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 goals, and companies are taking initiatives. Some companies are taking initiative to address those UN SDG. And a lot of globalization and interconnectedness with all the social media, and also the platforms such as LinkedIn. You can see more companies are being questioned, and they have to answer questions on their company from stakeholders. And technology is one opportunity for companies to use in terms of providing information to our stakeholders. So it's a lot about communicating your accountability, your stewardship to your stakeholders. So it's no more just addressing your shareholders. Of course, shareholders are very important as far as Securities Commission is concerned, and Bursa Malaysia. They encourage companies, especially public listed, to have better communication engagement with their shareholders. But on top of that, the stakeholders are also demanding good information from companies. So when I train companies on IR, there's always a question by them in terms of confidentiality. So they are always saying that if we disclose this, wouldn't it be wouldn't it show that we are not doing well this time? So, for example, or wouldn't our strategy be exposed to the people? So I said, I think they need to think about being transparent, the beauty of being transparent, because if you're not being transparent, people will still ask in terms of those things that they pick up. Yeah. So and sometimes they ask on social medias, and it went on social medias without proper management and without proper clarification. But if you have disclosed in your integrated report, for example, you've been transparent about that. And normally companies, when their value are destroyed, they will disclose as such that, okay, due to pandemic, for our business has to be shut down. For example, I pick up Air Asia, our airline business has to be curtailed because of pandemic. However, they're creating new other business. So they've been transparent about disclosing those business that are impacted, but they've been transparent about their action plans in creating new business. Yeah. So nowadays the stakeholders are advanced and they are knowledgeable. So when they see that companies are doing something and the companies are transparent about what they have lost, what they have probably reduced because of certain calamities, but then they disclose about the action plans, initiative, the effort, it is acceptable. And we've seen many companies doing that. So the corporate reporting landscape has been actually very demanding nowadays. Yeah. So sorry, I think I didn't expect there's some there's some construction work at my neighbor's house. Okay. Yeah. And in terms of the global ecosystem sustainability and ESG, you see, this is the alphabet soup. As I said, there are many standards out there. You can see in my diagram, the IFRS Foundation, SE Sustainability Standard Board, now called ISSB, the TCFD, the SASB is Sustainability Accounting. And then the integrated reporting is actually the umbrella principles, because integrated reporting framework is very principle based, and it has what we call it has few principles that are being used in terms of preparing financial report. So we consider that IR and reporting all matters in that relates to ESG. Okay, so first, the report comes with fundamental concepts, as guidance such as connectivity, forward-looking statements, about about has the fundamental concept, and it talks about 6 capitals. It has about 7 guiding principles and recommended 8 content elements. Next one that I just like to briefly introduce is the SASB. SASB is a standards, and it has 7 instruction. I would say identify all the standards or requirement. Okay, so that's the second one. The third one is the IR framework and SASB used together. I've seen a company in Japan they use IR integrated report as the umbrella, as a framework, and within their integrated report, they include the SASB standards in addressing industry specific information, which include also metrics. Yeah, metrics, and metrics can be very quantitative, and also disclosure topic to that industry, and it also have comparability of information with other companies in this industry. We've seen how they add to enhance their corporate reporting. I've seen this in one of the companies in Japan. Using in preparing integrated reporting that includes metrics, and some are using GRI, SASB, and TCFD together. TCFD is the that I would like to share. TCFD actually propose or recommend disclosure on climate related information that relates to governance, or incorporated into governance, how the governance handle climate related issues, that relates to strategy, how the climate related issues are being incorporated into the strategy, that relates to risk management, how the risk management has incorporated the climate issues, and finally they would like metrics and targets. And another thing about metrics and target means that, okay, we are targeting to be net zero, no carbon emission by 2030. But every year, what is your target to get to 2030? That's, for example, that is what it means by metrics and targets. And one other thing that is people talk about when it comes to the TCFD recommendation is about scenario analysis. Yeah, because as I mentioned, handling climate is not easy. It's dynamic, and only Allah knows, right? However, we as human try to put the scenarios, based on the data that we have. What if the the increase in the global warming is like 2%? What will happen? So they request, or they suggest for that scenario to be identified by the company. If it is this first scenario, 1.5% of increase in global warming, or 2% or 3%, how are you impacted? So that's the recommendation of TCFD, and a lot of people are struggling with that because it's not easy. But the scenario is one of the recommendations to be included in their governance strategy, risk management, metrics and targets. So that's the third one. And the much awaited announcement on the international sustainability standards came out yesterday. And these are the two exposure drafts about the general requirements that is on S1, and S2 is about climate related disclosure. So generally, S1 is more of characteristics, and S2 is the content of disclosures required on this climate. So very interesting. In short, I've analyzed that. In short, I have identified that in terms of the general requirements, it has included some of the features of integrated report, like connectivity, like business models to be disclosed. And with S2, a lot of content of TCFD, I think, are inside this S2 in the exposure draft. Yeah, for example, the exposure draft 2 exactly put all the governance requirements, strategy disclosure, risk management disclosure, and metrics and targets. So I would say largely it is based on TCFD requirement or recommendation. Okay, we have until July to comment, which is quite a short period now. So we have April, May, June, July to comment and provide comment letters to IFRS, ISSB, yeah, International Sustainability Standard Board. Okay, this is where the how the convergence is happening, whereby the TCFD, SASB, and IR has moved into the ISSB due process, and and it's being embedded into the consumption framework as the especially from IR reporting framework, and the TCFD has been embedded there. So to be honest, I'm quite aware of how it is happening, because I'm part of the integrated reporting framework board, and we really lobby and push for part of the IR principles to be included in the consumption framework, and connectivity is actually included there. So yeah, so that's and it finally came out on the standards lah. Right. On the assurance front, the IFAC is working on the assurance part, on the integrated reporting assurance and assurance to be given for this type of information. But to be honest, many auditors are quite cautious in providing assurance on this type of information. And another point is that some auditors do provide that assurance, but they provided what we call limited assurance. Yeah, it's not part of the audit report, it's not part of the financial statement external audit report, but it's a separate assurance. Yeah, it's under assurance engagement standard IAESB 3000, and they gave limited assurance on only certain data. Limited assurance means they gave assurance on only certain data in the report, because some data are not easy to verify. Yeah, so that is the development in terms of the assurance front. Yeah, I was in the conversation in when they came out with this, because I was part of the technical advisor on the IFAC public accountant in business. I'm no more there. Yeah, but we have been in that conversation in terms of the assurance the assurance provision. Yeah, providing the assurance. And IFAC also has published this report that you can, together with CIMA and AICPA, you can download this in terms of looking at the state of play, the current state of play on sustainability assurance. As I said that only certain jurisdictions, only in certain countries, we can see the auditors provided that assurance, and again, a lot of assurance is very much on limited assurance. On the Malaysian front, our regulation and guidelines, first in MCCG, that was amended on 28 April 2021. MCCG actually highly included in terms of the role of directors in taking care of sustainability information, and Bursa Malaysia also amended its sustainability reporting guide on 2021, and Bank Negara also has produced what they call a taxonomy on climate change and principle-based information. And Bank Negara actually these three bodies actually form up and some sort of committee that they call JC3. Joint Committee for Climate Change. Yeah, JC3. You can also download from JC3 website on the recommendations, and it's still developing on some of those recommendations they have produced, and they are still working on their recommendations. So one of the latest one that they produced, I think that was in January 2022, it was stated there that they wish to ensure that all banks will produce TCFD state disclosure by 2025. Okay, so banks are also now looking at the getting more information on the TCFD. So this is from the MCCG, an extract where it says explicit that board together with management takes responsibility for the governance of sustainability of the company, including the company sustainability strategic priorities and targets. So it is explicit that board together with management must include, setting this sustainability into their strategy priorities and target. And number two, board has to ensure that companies' sustainability strategies are communicated to its internal external stakeholders. Okay, and then third is to ensure action. Okay, in ensuring that you have the skill set and you have incorporated into risks and opportunities, identifying risks and opportunities. And then fourth is evaluating performance. So it is already on the code. Yeah, and all public listed, they need to have what they call a governance statement, whether they comply with the code or in the areas where, they have put more effort on the code, and this is part of the a premium statement of those that are encouraged. So they need to now start looking into how they fulfill the recommendations of the code. So as far as members of the accountancy profession, this one, my last slide. So you see, from all those that I have shared today, yeah, members of accounting professions, they play roles as board members, as C-suite, senior management, as accountants, as risk managers, as internal auditors and external auditors. Therefore, we, in short, one point that is clear, we cannot avoid, our to learn or to have knowledge on the ESG matters and how it's impacting the strategy, risk management, and operation of the companies and any organizations. And maybe there's a question whether these are only all these, as you can see, perhaps very much directed to companies, but from the public sector, actually the IPSAS, the chairman of Public Sector Standard, Ian Carruthers, has also shared that the public sector accounting standards, the board is now looking into coming out with incorporating this ESG or this ESG requirement into public sector standards as well. So the work is underway. Okay, so I think we, all of us, we've been years in this area, we've been years teaching accounting. So it's good to have this discussion, and also it's good to identify probably how do we move forward and what are our challenges. So evidently, clearly, it's not something that we can can probably close our eyes off, but it is something that we need to address and we need to advocate and we need to start talking about. So it can be in terms of research, in terms of your teaching materials, in terms of your topics. So there are many areas and opportunities where this matter can be taught, can be discussed, can be researched on. So perhaps I hand it over back to Dr. Nick, Prof. Dr. Nick, to moderate or to continue with the discussion. So over back to you, Prof.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nur Mazillah. It has been an enlightening talk and very insightful. And it's good to see the progress that has happened. I can definitely relate to your mention just now about you and your colleagues, Dr. Rosita, trying to research on environmental accounting in 2011. Because I did my PhD and completed in 1995 on social responsibility accounting. And when I came back, people saying, what is that? Is that part of accounting? So I definitely relate even as late as 2011. It was difficult. And I think one of our earlier PhD students in environmental accounting of mine and Dr. Malia also, we faced the same thing. So Dr. Diana dan sebagainya, where the survey respondents were quite, at that time, quite unsure of environmental accounting, or felt that it was not part of accounting. And so Alhamdulillah to see the progress or the advancement. Okay, I have a few questions, but I do not want to take over the, so I would like to open to our colleagues as well as students who have questions first, if possible. Any questions from the floor?
Madam,
Yes,
I
Raja
am,
Adlan. All right.
yes, Dr. Mazila, I can see that, especially since you said that work is in progress, for ESG to be incorporated in Malaysia. But especially as accounting students, like integrated reporting, we have a general idea of what it is, but not really on the specifics, on the details. So is there any like coursework or certificates that are specifically training us for ESG and integrated reporting, or are we just expected to learn and experience it once we're in the industry?
Okay, I think Firdaus, right? That is asking. Sorry, I don't get your name.
Adlan Jamali. Yeah.
Okay, so Adlan, it's really a good question. I'm so pleased that you are very keen to learn more about that. Actually, the integrated reporting so far, MIA is conducting. MIA do conduct training where you can get certification, and that certification is actually joined together with International Integrated Reporting Council, Value Reporting Foundation. But for the MIA training, of course, they do charge lah. So I think few hundred on that. They have training on the introductory and 3 days training on practical application. So far, those are training by MIA. But actually, before I left, we are almost ready for our online training, in the sense that you can do self-learning through the online portal. But I made quite a few comments to the content, so they took some time to enhance the content. So hopefully those will be out soon. So this is what we call the e-training lah, that you can also actually you can actually follow. But as then the other one is the TCFD. Yeah, the TCFD, you can go to the portal and they do have an online training. You can just type TCFD learn. Yeah, TCFD training hub. They do have free training for people to learn. Yeah, so but you can learn how, you can read in terms of how they recommend for companies to incorporate climate change into their strategy, governance, risk management, and target. So those are available. So I strongly recommend for you to do that, to get more knowledge, and visit the website of integrated reporting as well, because there are many examples of how companies prepare their integrated report. And as far as integrated report is concerned, you asked me those reports that I like. Axiata, very good report. Petronas, I would say that I'm very happy with Petronas, because we did the corporate training for Petronas, and we saw the outcome of the integrated report is really, really good. So Petronas integrated report, that's the first time Petronas as a holding company came out with the integrated report. So very beneficial information in there. So yeah, those are the I think those will give you good information and learning experience. Adlan. Yep.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, next question. any colleagues embarking on climate change research?
So maybe I would like to ask questions, yeah. Especially maybe the students like I think Adlan, Firdaus. I think Firdaus is also one of the students. Uh, because I'm quite familiar with lecturers' names, so I think this one. So for all those young people, the what we call young leaders, yeah, the future leaders of Malaysia, and you are young leaders. Based on that, what I presented and the story that I mentioned about my grandson and how I felt as a grandmother to leave my grandson with the world, what would be your aspiration and how can you promise me about what you can do for the next 20 years of Malaysia? I think I'm old already, retired, and maybe just waiting, Alhamdulillah, during COVID, I'm still alive. I'm very cautious that Allah may just take me anytime, especially during the COVID time. A lot of good friends, have been, have gone to see the Creator. But we, all of us, me, Prof Nick, we are just, living a few more years of our life and hoping that we will leave this message to all of you, the future leaders. What would be your aspirations moving forward? Yeah, maybe just share, bounce the ideas. I think we are all. It's a Friday leisure talk, I would say. So just bounce, and also maybe your worries, your concern, what you think that probably stop you in terms of what you're thinking, and what probably something that you're fear of, your concern. So please just share when maybe it was good conversation on Friday morning, yeah, coffee morning before Ramadan.
Students,
Yeah,
please rise to the challenge.
yeah. Adlan, maybe since I've spoken to you, maybe something that you want to bounce the idea.
Nothing to add much because I'm not even sure where I'll be 20 years in the future. But I do like the idea that roles of accountants in I'm sorry, is it noisy in my because
You're fine, Adlan.
leaf
I can
blower.
hear you very
We
clearly.
can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I like the idea of how accountants nowadays are more involved in decision making, and right now we're not at least moving forward into the future, we are less focused on short-term profit and more on long-term sustainability. So yeah, I do hope that I can contribute to that development. And one of my fears is that not sure yet where I will work, but I do hope that wherever I work will be in a progressive company, not one that is too focused on company and just putting aside all these other values.
Yep.
So I think that's all I have to say.
Alhamdulillah, Adlan, I think you do get the points, and for example, yeah, you're going to be the future leaders of corporations as well, and I think you get the point that being a business entity, does profit is not the main agenda. It's not about profit maximization, but it's also to take care of the social and environment. So yeah, I'm very pleased. Inshallah, Adlan, I pray for you and for your future that you're going to be a good leader with a good life. Yeah, moving forward. Yeah,
Thank
maybe
you.
any other students can share, like what you feel that you can play your roles ahead.
Is Ifa here?
Yeah, I can see Ifa Nazura. Yeah.
Yes, madam.
Yeah, maybe Ifa, you can just share, bounce the idea.
About oh my god.
Yeah, about maybe how do you see yourself? You know, what is your aspiration to finish, I mean probably finish your study and then start to work, and when you start working, how do you feel that you want to advocate and you play a role, yeah, contribute when you are working?
I think if I wanted to be like what Madam Mazila said today, to be more in tune with the upcoming environment issue and so on, I think the first thing is I should always be concerned about what happened around me, and should always put in mind that I wanted to contribute something for the people in the name of Islam. So I think that would make me feel consistently feel passionate on what I'm going to do, because like in life I notice like every moment sometimes I would feel very down, sometimes I would feel like wanted to give up, but if I think I wanted to do it for Allah and for Islam, I think I can manage it and bring, and I can make sure that what I do would bring benefit to others, not only me. Yeah, that's all.
All right. Alhamdulillah, and I pray for you and for your success, and so that I hope you can achieve your aspirations and your ambitions as well. Yeah. Maybe also any questions from the lecturers, our educators, in terms of perhaps research or something like that.
I have a question, Dr. Mazila.
Yes,
if
Prof.
I
Yeah.
may represent. Apa ni, when referring back to our earlier conversation when we were both in the GME platform, all right, on your on what BIMB Securities is embarking on, kan, and your idea about halalan and tayyiban. Could you please elaborate that a little bit in terms of research opportunities?
Yes, yeah. So I've been appointed as the PIMB Securities Board. That was just about 2 months ago in February, after I left MIA. And PIMB Securities is actually a subsidiary of Bank Islam, and it is I think the only full Sharia based stockbroking firm. Yeah. So very interesting, and so a lot of the investment research. So the team will do stock research every day, but they will do all the research targeting on Sharia compliant companies, to advise their customers on investing in the Sharia compliant companies. So I put up the idea. I said that can we move another step to look at Sharia compliant companies, but also those that uphold ESG very well. Yeah. So I mooted the idea that it's not just halal, and that means Sharia compliant, but they are toyiban, halalan and toyiban, in the sense that companies that do good and not destroying the environment. So I think I had that conversation with the head of research, and she said that she will do more probably research or more work on that, and see how they can move into that, because on the Malaysian stock market at the moment, Bursa Malaysia has set up what they call this this FTSE, which we, in the short form, I call it FTSE. We all call it FTSE, FTSE, FTSE for good. That is indices. So indices means they will actually group together the companies that are good in ESG, in protecting environmental and social, and they put under indices. So Bursa Malaysia has started that. Is one index by its own, but FTSE for good is one index. So globally, we already have that under Morgan Stanley. We call it MSCI, Morgan Stanley, I think, Capital Index. So they have that. Globally, we do have the ESG indices. So that's where, if a company is actually on the Sharia compliant index, and it's also on FTSE. That means it handles the halalan part, Sharia compliant, but is actually promoting something for good. Yeah. So in our halalan toyiban concept is not just about the thing is halal, but is good. So even for food industry, some food are halal, but they may not be very good to your health. Yeah. For example, cakes, sugar, halal, but tapi cakes ni not good for your health, like because high content of sugar. So at this age ni, I think maybe you are young people, you may not think about it yet. But people at my age, we have to now thinking about cutting sugar, cutting calories and all that. So some food, they halal very but not good for my health because I cannot take my sugar. So that's what we call halalan toiban. So that's the idea that I'm having. But I think if you do have that you go into that research on companies moving into that direction, that would be a good research area. Yeah, in terms of prospects, in terms if you're from marketing, maybe in terms of looking at consumers' behaviors. Because I do know there's also a group of consumers that are very cautious about their food intake. For example, about the toyiban part. For example, some uh, they don't take fast food at all and things like that. So we do have that part of consumers, but companies also is interesting. If you even if you're looking at stock market research, you can identify those companies that are within this space. How is their stock performing? Yeah, in terms of if you are doing quantitative capital research, you can look at how the stock is performing. Very little at the moment research on that area. There are already research on integrated report. There are quite a number of research on that, but on this ESG, in much of that report yet. Yeah, so that's an area of research that can be done. Yeah, and the next one would be a bit more difficult is on in terms of the environmental, in terms of the management accounting, the detailed accounting on how accountant can handle in terms of their resource allocation, in terms of the purchase and procurement of moving in from the current purchase of product to product that is renewable, that is green friendly, environmental friendly. So to be honest, from my observation, uh, accountants are grappling with that. So one of I from my observation, because I spoke to many accountants, I spoke to CFOs. If they were to do that, they also need to do a lot of research, a lot of it's like they have to start again looking for their vendors that are green. Okay, but on that space, it has two parts. Yeah. Yes, first accountants need to do a lot more work to work with vendors that are green friendly. And but however, this is a good opportunity for them because globally, in terms of all these climate regulation, the EU has started to come up with the taxonomy. All exporters to EU will need to handle green product. So now we are, the SMEs have started to feel the pressure. If your productions are not environmental friendly, you may not be able to export to EU. So it's a matter another 1-2 years. So therefore, now I would say that there couldn't be any more reasons not to move into environmental friendly production. Okay, that is on the global front. But locally, this is something that also comes to my mind. Locally, we've heard, we've heard about companies that spill off the river with their byproducts that actually tarnish the environment. So it comes to my mind, how can they even allow to do that? Why these companies are not closed down? Yeah. So we are grappling with that in Malaysia, partly because enforcement is not, I think, serious enough or not tightened enough. So it's not even talking about transforming your production to be environmental friendly and changing your product to environmental friendly. Now it is a blatant, clear, clear, I think, crime to the environment where you spill off your byproducts into the river. It's a clear crime. I think I just like to share how serious is that, but whether the actions are taken. So a lot need to be done in Malaysia in this space so that more awareness lah. Actually, environment is one thing, but awareness is another thing, and the impact is a lot. The moment the river is actually polluted, we all don't have water for few days. And it's still happening. So that's something in my mind. Yeah. So it's not just about public listed. Actually, for the small and medium enterprise, those are very important as well. So I've not moved into being an activist, but I pick up all those things, and I think it's for awareness purpose lah. Yeah. So that's
Alright. Any questions? I have one more, with your permission.
Yeah, sure, Prof. Any question? Yeah.
In light of what, when you talk about blatant disregard for the environment, polluting the rivers, we remember Sungai Kim Kim, right?
Yeah,
In
yeah.
Johor, and many other cases, of course, Lainas Corporation in
Yeah.
Gebeng, Kuantan, and so many other issues in Malaysia. Given your experience with CFOs and companies and all that, even with public listed companies before that, how would you advise? I'm trying to get a question that would be relevant to both groups here, educators and students. How would you advise the accounting academics here in terms of, regardless of what accounting subject we teach, tax, audit, financial reporting, management accounting, ICS dan sebagainya, what is the best way, given the challenges that new accountants will face in the real world, right? We have lack of enforcement, maybe bribery, corruption, that may be preventing one from being more responsible towards the environment, or younger accountants may find it tough in a world of people who do not think alike, maybe, all right? So how best is the way forward for us accounting educators to actually inculcate that value so that our young accountants who are future leaders, hopefully some of them will also become accountants and then enter politics so they can rule the country, all right? How do we inculcate the values of being, the Khalifah, the most impactful way? We are all, putting that into our syllabus. I think that would be the first step, and I think most universities, including IIUM, already, doing good there. Some good. We can improve, but we're doing good there. But how do we really make an impact on these younger accountants in the face of the challenges that they would face when they enter the real world on this issue?
Yep. Okay. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the students, because you are IIU students. Yeah, I think I'm able to survive my career journey and also my life, because I actually had my education in IIUM itself. So really, this is the truth. Yeah, not because I'm talking to IIUM fraternity. So the most important thing is about your role as a vicegerent of Allah. If that stays in your system, in your belief system, in your mind, if you really understand yourself, yeah, as first being the vicegerent and the humble Allah, yeah, the servant of Allah, that is the most important thing. Seriously, very important. To knowing yourself, this is where I think knowing yourself is the key to everything, and knowing yourself as servant of Allah is the main factor. So how does that help in terms of your work, your career, your journey? So first, when you're a servant of Allah and you put that in your mind, say you work in a public listed company. Yeah, I've worked in public listed company. So you're not working for the money. You're working to be a servant of Allah, and you have to put the niyat that you're doing your work because you know that you are tasked, to provide, to uphold the teaching of Islam. And being a CFO, how do you uphold the teaching of Islam? You help the company to run, to revenue, to record, yeah, to disclose properly. So, and when you disclose, you probably have challenge in terms of some directors say, no, don't disclose this, but that comes with your transparency. Yeah, that we disclose what is right. One thing that we are lacking in Malaysia is to stand on what is right. Berani kerana benar. And a lot of things that has not been stopped, and people let it happen because dia tidak berani kerana benar. I have seen a lot of this, and I have involved in conversation discussion with top leaders, and we all agree on something like Tan Sri Samad. We promote something that is correct. We promote something that you need to do it the right thing. But then we see sometimes why it happened in many things they are not right, because there are people who've seen that, but they cannot say, no, this, we shouldn't do this. Yeah. So I do connect with a lot of my alumni UIE, and these alumni that supports me along the way as well, because we believe on the same thing. So to be honest, in MIE, there are many UIE alumni. Dato Rizwan is my head of enforcement. My previous one was MIA alumni. He was a police officer who came to MIA to do law. So he was my junior lah, in a way, even though he's much older. But we uphold the same thing. And it's easy for me to work, and we understand it very well. So both me and him, we stand by that very much. And, come whatever whom it may, we will stand by that. Because you know very well in MIE, we did a lot of enforcement. Yeah, so those who flouted the rules, the ethical code and all that, we did a lot, but we carry it out with no fear or favor. Yeah, because it's we know. So it is our duty. And you have to stand on. So I think that's very important. And for example, if you're in public listed and you have to prepare the account. So I was in public listed, and you need to be able to engage and slowly talk to people that I think we need to disclose we cannot disclose something that's wrong, or we should disclose the truth, something like. But of course there are ways and techniques how we communicate to people, and this is where you need to berhikmah, ya. Hikmah ni, wisdom ni is another skill that I've been learning throughout my years. Not easy to master this skill, hikmah. Very simple in Quran, but if you read the Quran, you see a lot of examples on how Rasulullah used hikmah, wisdom. Then there is another I think skill that you need to bring in terms of wisdom of communicating with people. So when it comes to wisdom, you see the other traits of orang yang beriman, the other traits of pious person, such as sabar, patience will come into picture. In order for you to master your wisdom skills, you need sabar, tawakal. That comes all together. Yeah, tawakal is another thing. So to be honest, those are my guide along my journey. And at end of the day, it is what will make you peaceful. Yeah, how you achieve success to me is not about what car you drive and how much salary you earn. It's about being peaceful with your life, with yourself, and when you perform your prayer, you can concentrate. That's the success to me. And I think okay, how do you achieve that? The Muslims, we have a lot of tools. We have dua, and we have salat, and we have zikir. Yeah, if you cannot make a good decision, you perform your tahajjud. I did that all the way throughout my career. If tomorrow I have a board meeting, I have a very difficult conversation to make, I'll perform tahajjud, I'll perform my duha, I'll pray a lot that Allah help me. So at the end, I think I all those things, the intelligence and whatnot, it's all from Allah. It's not done by me, because Allah make it for me, and Allah helps me to go through all those work that I need to do, difficult one. So that's, I think, how I survive around the way. Yeah. So that's my advice. Yeah. And we have all the tools, all the dua and zikir. And when you are composed, composure is one traits of a leader. When you are peace, you're composed, you'll be able to make good decisions. Yeah. So it's the beauty of Islam. We have all that to be successful. That's my advice, Prof. You're muted, I think.
Sorry, thank you very much, Dr. Nomazila. If you don't mind, we have about 4 minutes, but one more question in the chat. So if you can address that. This question is from Nur Bahariyah Baharin, a student. Dr. Nomazila, how about implementation of ESG in statutory bodies or Islamic Council in Malaysia?
Yeah. Okay, so actually in our Islamic Council or in our, religious organization, so to speak, the many of our Islamic-based organization, I would like to call it Islamic-based organization, they uphold Maqasid al-Sharia. So Maqasid of Sharia is bigger than ESG. So even though they may not identify ESG and all that, but when they actually implement and carry out those activities based on Maqasid of Sharia, they are already, working on ESG, and they are already actually implementing those ESG. So if we like to call it ESG, we just have to do a mapping. What are the activities that they have done and they are doing, and just map it. How do we identify that in ESG? Yeah, so maybe areas that they probably need to start looking at is on the environmental part. And again, it is our duty also to reach out to them and share with them the knowledge on areas where they can probably improve, so that their activities, the product that they purchase, can be more environmental friendly. Yeah, so in a way, sometimes in our organization, we don't have that ilmu or that knowledge to identify that actually this product that we purchase come from deforestation, for example. This product that we purchase is affecting the environment. Sometimes the knowledge and awareness is not there. So we need the environmental decision. But in terms of helping people, helping the poor, this part of. So I think that's motivation in terms of trying to,
Breaking, Dr. Mazila.
for them. Sorry, is that better? Can you pick the points that I mentioned just now? We need to bring them awareness, probably on environmental, but in terms of social, all the activities that they're doing has fulfilled the social part. And as I said, Makasih Sharia is bigger than ESG.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Mazila. If there's no other questions, I think we have come to the end of a very insightful session. I'd like to also, in case you find this very inspiring as well as insightful, we have another talk scheduled for June, which Dr. Nur Mazila has kindly agreed to, which also has a very interesting area focusing on corruption and the accounting profession. So we go from ESG to corruption. So I think the students probably is during their exam time. So probably they may not be able to make it during that time, but it will be, maybe we can get some postgraduate students to join us then. So anyway, that's all for today. Thank you, Dr. Nur Mazila. Any last words from you?
So first of all, thank you so much, Prof. And I would just like to say that all of the knowledge comes from Allah, and I think the shortcomings are all based on me as a person. I really hope that this knowledge can also trigger some actions from us, and share this knowledge, provide awareness to people on protecting the environment and social, be ideal, be just, have improve ourselves in terms of our ahlak. I really dua, I wish that we have a better world that we leave for the young generation, like for grandchildren. So because to me, before I leave dunya, one thing that I pick up what Rasulullah said is, I do want to leave, I'm cautious, I'm worried to leave a generation if the generation is weaker. So I like to leave a stronger generation to lead the world and uphold the Makasih. Yeah. So hopefully this will be something good for all of us. And so sorry if there's any shortcut. So Allah khairan katsiran.
Well, yeah, thank you very much once again, Dr. Nur Mazila. And we look forward to maybe some collaboration perhaps in the future, and also more cooperative work perhaps with you and other organizations that you are affiliated with, inshallah, for the betterment of the society. Thank you. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. And thank you all for coming and attending this session.